I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp, and today we honor, celebrate, and remember Eloise Eland. We will also remember Marcia, Eloise and Calvin's daughter today. We have gathered here in care and love, both in person and online. The family wishes to thank everyone who is attending service today. Eloise Ellie Rich Eland, beloved mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, and friend. She was loving, supportive, inspiring, and laughed easily. And she taught yoga right in that room over there, and people have said that they remember the moves even to this day. She cared deeply about friends and family and community, and she stood up for what she believed in. She and her husband Calvin were advocates for civil and human rights and social justice, and they were also anti-war activists. They volunteered with homeless shelters, food shelves, tutoring, building houses, and providing humanitarian aid to migrants crossing the Arizona desert from Mexico. She was a beautiful soul and a wonderful fabric artist and inspired many to be their best selves. We open our service today with the words, "Look to this day" by Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lies all the verities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of achievement are but experiences of time. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. And today, well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look therefore well to this day. Such is the salutation of the ever-new dawn. And now we remember Marcia. David, Alyssa Jo, and John wanted to honor the passing of their beloved sister Marcia, who passed in August of 2022. Many of you knew her and cared about her also. Her family misses her every day and wishes that she could be here with us today. And now Danielle and Keegan will light the chalice.
Please read the words in your order of service with us. At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
I think the part of what we just read that stuck out to me the most was deep gratitude. Grandpa and Grandma lived with this kind of appreciation and gratitude for one another, their family, community, and people that could be felt in person or even states away. I grew up in Indiana, but their love for me and my daughters was never diminished or dimmed or doubted by distance. And even now, their gratitude and love will remain felt.
Grandma Eloise lit a flame in me with her love of traveling, her support for those in need, and her commitment to family.
Hello, I am Elisa, and I am Eloise's granddaughter and Marcia's daughter. And I am here to tell you about the story of Eloise. Eloise was born in 1928 in Wayland, Iowa, to Alice and Alan Rich. She had one older sister, Dolores, and three younger brothers, Alan Jr., Harold, and Dwight. Her dad farmed, and they lived in a house without plumbing or electricity. Eloise's mother, Alice, passed away tragically when Eloise was only 8. It was a huge loss which impacted the family deeply. When Eloise was a teen, her dad married her stepmom, Mabel, and Eloise was happy to have Mabel join the family and was pleased when later in life, Mabel officially adopted her and her siblings. Eloise attended elementary school in a one-room country school. Then she moved to Mount Pleasant to attend high school. There, she developed her love of books and she played basketball. She helped pay her living expenses by working several jobs, including as a telephone operator. She told us that she initially lived with her aunt and uncle, but had to move to her grandmother's house because they said she ate too much. She always did have a healthy appetite, even into her 90s. Education was very important to her. After high school, she moved to Des Moines for nurses training. She met her sweetheart, Calvin, during that time. When he asked her to marry him before she finished her nurses training, she said, probably. She liked to tease Calvin, but she also wanted to finish her nurses training. At that time, trainees who got married had to leave the program. She got her RN in 1949 and married Calvin later that year. Eloise and Calvin had 5 kids: David, Marcia, Elisa Jo, John, and Robert. The family followed Calvin's career and lived in Iowa, New York, Minnesota, Colorado, and Wisconsin. In New York City, when Calvin was finishing his doctorate at Columbia University, Eloise was the president of the Student Wives Clubs. She said they probably selected her because she was too shy to say no. But she was very proud that as president, she got to host an important guest who she greatly admired, Eleanor Roosevelt. She remembered being nervous about talking with Mrs. Roosevelt, but actually found it quite easy. Eloise was a registered nurse for 30 years. In 1977, she received her master's degree in marriage and family counseling and started her second career as a therapist in family practice. She also taught yoga into her 80s. She loved children and she loved to hold babies. She enjoyed reading and singing to her kids and grandkids. She taught her family skills like cooking, laundry, and the importance of having fun, even when things didn't turn out as expected. A few years ago, Keegan, Rosa, and I made a special trip to Eau Claire to celebrate her birthday. We told stories, we played dominoes, and we planned to surprise her with an ice cream sundae bar, knowing ice cream was one of her favorite treats. However, we were having so much fun telling stories and playing dominoes that when it came time for the surprise, we realized that we forgot to put the ice cream in the freezer. The ice cream sundae turned into ice cream soup, but we all ate it anyway, and we maybe even enjoyed it more because Grandma was laughing so hard. She also taught her family to stand up for what they believed in. In a piece she wrote called My Beliefs, she talked about the importance of treating one's fellow humans with love and kindness, and that the key is what one does, not what one believes. And so she did a lot. She ran for office twice in Moorhead, was president of the League of Women Voters in Eau Claire, and worked for many political campaigns. She was an advocate for civil and human rights, social justice, and an anti-war activist. Eloise was a talented artist with an eye for color and pattern. Her favorite medium was weaving. She created her own designs and wove beautiful wall hangings, blankets, table runners, and rugs. She and Calvin traveled to many countries, including Canada, Mexico, Honduras, Colombia, China, Japan, Turkey, and many other European countries. She continued to travel with her kids and grandkids even into her 80s. In the summer of 2009, Grandma, my mother Marcia, Ashley, and I embarked on a Grecian adventure. The locals there were beyond impressed with Grandma's stamina, but simultaneously were not shy about scolding the rest of us if we were not pampering our yaya enough. We went out to eat at least once a day, and it became customary for Yaya to get a free dessert at every meal. On the last day of the trip, the waiter asked if we wanted the check before bringing out Yaya's free dessert. Before that, I don't think I have ever seen such a dramatic eye roll and telling glare. Grandma turned to us and said, "Doesn't he know I'm Yaya?" And the waiter had that free dessert out in seconds. Eloise loved to dance. She and Calvin ballroom danced for many years, and in 2019, at the age of 91, she learned the tango so she could dance it with David at Ashley's wedding. She and Calvin lived in the Eau Claire area for much of their married life and had strong friendships through the Unitarian congregation, their work, and the organizations they belonged to. Their Christmas tree burning parties were legendary. Later, they lived in Green Valley, Arizona, where they also had a loving community in the Borderlands Unitarians, the Desert Hills neighborhood, and the Samaritans. Eloise moved back to Eau Claire in 2020 to be with family when the pandemic started, but she always hoped to get back to her friends in Green Valley. Eloise cherished having time with the people she loved and was happiest when they gathered for great meals, conversation, card games, story, and laughter. We miss her deeply and will always feel her love.
Hello, my name's Rosa. I am Eloise's granddaughter and Elisa Joe's daughter. Thank you all for joining us here today. I feel very fortunate to have had so many wonderful years living in a world with my grandma. She certainly knew how to keep things interesting and very lively, as you've heard. One of the many things that made her so spectacular was the way she loved. As a kid, I was never fearful to take risks, even the dangerous ones, because I knew Nurse Eloise would patch me back up. It didn't matter if I was 5 years old with a scratched up knee or 21 years old with a nasty hangover. Grandma knew how to take care of it. Today, when we miss her love and care, we can find comfort in music. Grandma Eloise and Grandpa Calvin loved music and showed their love to their family through it. We spent many family gatherings playing piano and singing. Grandma sang songs to me and my cousins all the time. She sang lullabies to us, lullabies that my mom then sang to me when Grandma wasn't around, and lullabies that I hope to continue singing to my nieces and nephews in the years to come. One of the lullabies was called My Kitty, and oddly enough, after we had finalized everything in the service program, my mom found one of my grandma's writings. She had documented the things that she wanted at her celebration of life, and one of those things was to play the song. Like I said, she knew how to keep things interesting. So we will actually play the song for you now. We have a recording from her that she shared with the grandkids.
Battery, 98%. Connected to KDJ iPad Pro. KDJ iPad Pro connected.
The next two songs I want to sing are songs that I heard my grandmother, Clara Smith, singing to her grandchildren. And anytime I sing this, I always have a picture in my head of my grandmother sitting in the rocking chair and rocking a baby and with the baby up over her shoulder and singing these songs. So this is to my kitty is the first one. My kitty, my kitty, my I found this place all around. I looked in the cradle and under the table, but nowhere could kitty be found. I called old dog Rover to hunt the field over and help find my kitty for me. No dog could be kinder, but he couldn't find her. Oh, come, little kitty, to me. My kitty, my poor little kitty. I haunted this place all around. I looked in the cradle and under the table, but nowhere could kitty be found. At last I had found her with leaves all around her, way up in an old cherry tree. Oh, come, little kitty, so lovely and pretty. Oh, come, little kitty, to me. My kitty, my poor little kitty. I hunted this place all around. I looked in the cradle and under the table, but nowhere can kitty be found. The second one is again about a kitty.
Yeah, so she pretty incredible, and it's pretty incredible that we have that recording. It's gone through many iterations, but it just gets better with time. But like I said, my grandparents loved music. For my grandma's 80th birthday, Grandpa Calvin actually commissioned a song called Song of the Sage. Almost 14 years ago, we got to hear the UUC choir sing it, and today we get to hear it again.
Eloise loved the UU 7 principles. She asked Elisa Joe several times in the last few years to print them for her in large print so that she could read them. When Elisa would bring her a copy, they would read them together out loud and talk about some of them. These are the UU 7 principles. Unitarian Universalists, congregations affirm and promote 7 principles, which we hold as strong values and moral guides. We live out these principles with a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. As Reverend Barbara Wells Ten Hove explains, the principles are not dogma or doctrine, but are rather a guide for those of us who choose to join and participate in Unitarian Universalist religious communities. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second principle is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. The third principle is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The fourth principle is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The fifth principle is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. The sixth principle is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And the seventh principle is respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. The 7 principles and 6 sources of the Unitarian Universalist Association grew out of the grassroots of our communities, were affirmed democratically, and are part of who we are. And that you can read them as they were written in our UUA bylaws.
Hi, I'm Ashley, Grandma's granddaughter, and I guess that's in parent with Grandma, and Marcia's daughter. And I am going to read What I Know by Kenneth W. Collier. I do not know where we go when we die, and I do not know what the soul is or what death is or when or why. What I know is that the song once sung cannot be unsung, and the life once lived cannot be unlived, and the love once loved cannot be unloved. Love you, Grandma.
Now's the time in our service where we will have remembrances from the family to start out with. And then what's very special in our tradition is people come forward and share remembrances, and you'll light a candle. We'll also have the ability for those online to share a remembrance, and I'll read those out loud from Zoom. And so we will start with David. So.
Greetings to you all. I'm Eloise's oldest son, here with my daughter and my 2 granddaughters, all of whom Eloise and Calvin loved, as with all of you. Elisa Joe is going to speak of some qualities of her mother, my mother, or your friend, etc. And we're lucky to have her as our mother. You're going to participate in a little dance here coming up. Mom loved to dance. In recent years, as was mentioned by Elisa, she graduated from this dance you're all going to do to Argentine tango. And performed that at Ashley and Zach's wedding. But this was not something that was just learned in the course of a weekend. She spent the course of probably a year in Green Valley with the Argentine tango group there, taking lessons and learning the steps And, for someone in her late 80s, was doing a pretty darn good job. And she really loved it. She loved all dance. She particularly loved the dance with her husband, Calvin, that they did for years and years and years. As you may well know, when Eloise set her mind to something, nothing could get in the way. You could call that stubborn, or you could call that determined. Probably a little bit of both with her. One example that comes to mind is a mission with the Samaritans in Green Valley. They did many different things, as Elisa mentioned there. And this was after Calvin had had a stroke and he couldn't go out on some of the things. But Mom went out on a mission into the desert, not by herself, with a group, and they were taking water out to various places, because people coming across the border oftentimes didn't bring enough water, or they didn't bring enough usually coming across in the cold of the night. It was pretty rough trek, and so part of what the Samaritans did would leave things out in the desert. Well, this particular time, the Border Patrol and the local sheriff's office apprehended Mom and her friends, and it was illegal to leave water in the desert. And so, she put her hands out, and I'm not sure if they cuffed her with her hands in front or her hands in back. They put her in the squad car. The deputy said, we're going to charge you. And she wasn't particularly upset. Then the sheriff came along and he said, "What are you doing to this nice old lady and her friend?" And he took them out of the car, uncuffed them, and sent them on their way. Now, I would say that Mom was a little bit disappointed. I think she wanted the free meal in the jail, because she did like to eat. No, she really supported the Samaritan mission. She really supported the people's value of those coming across the border. She was dedicated to Unitarian Universalism here and then in Amato, and all the activities that go with the UU7 that you read. In Amato, they on Easter always do an Easter parade, and Mom loved getting decked out in the hat with tons and tons of flowers on the hat, and then all the women would walk around the church in their hats and parade. That was one of her favorite things. I think she exemplified compassion and love and courage, and she taught her children by example, and we very much appreciate that, appreciated her, appreciated Calvin, and have been led by their example. So she's missed and loved.
I'm Elisa Jo, or Jody, Eloise's youngest daughter. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to us. It's been a very difficult year for our family with losing our beloved mom, Eloise, and sister, Marcia. It's hard to imagine life without them. My friend Inga shared a poem from St. John Chrysostom, which I found comforting and I'd like to share with you. They whom we love and lose are no longer where they were before. They are now wherever we are. There are many ways that Mom will always be with me. A few examples are her love of music, reading, travel, her homemade pumpkin pie, which I now know how to make, the importance of advocacy, and the importance of family and friends. I also want to share 3 foundational things that I got from Mom: the importance of love, hope, and fun. These are important qualities that have impacted my life and that I carry with me. Sorry, I keep losing my place. And interestingly, when I found Mom's writing, Rosa mentioned that I found Mom's writing after we had the program set. I found her wishes for the service. And she included these 3 qualities, starting with love. Most importantly, she gave me a solid, loving foundation. As a kid and throughout my life, I felt loved and supported by her. That gave me courage and strength to go out and live my life. A quote that Mom wanted in the memorial service is, "All you need is love." Hopefully you can feel that today with all that you're hearing about her life. The love she shared with family and friends was a big part of who she was, and it's her legacy. Another important quality that I got from Mom is hope. Mom was a hopeful person. Through her encouragement, teaching, activism, work as a therapist, you got a sense of her ongoing hope. She always believed that things could get better. She believed that if you worked for what you believed in, you could make a difference. She worked hard for causes and candidates that she believed in, even at times when things were looking dim. She helped me see the ebb and flow of life, and that even when things get worse, you can always hope that they will get better. I try to be like her and live with hope. Her hopefulness reminds us that even in the midst of personal heartbreak and so many difficulties in the world, we can still hope, we can and should still hope and work toward good things for the future. She included in her wishes for her memorial one of the quotes that's on the program insert: "Keep your fork, the best is yet to come." You've already heard about her love of eating, but also when I saw that in her notes, I thought, well, I've never heard that before. How interesting that she wants that as part of her service, but it really speaks to her optimism and that quality of hope. The last thing I want to share, and I hope you've gotten this idea already, well, David gave you a little hint, but Mom loved fun. She was playful, she loved to laugh, and she loved to dance. In her later years at family gatherings, she would get us to do the hokey pokey together. It made her so happy. So one more request from her is that we would all do the hokey pokey. Hopefully you know it. If you're willing and able, please stand up, but you can also do it from your seat. We'll do 2 verses. The first one is you put your left foot in, and the second one is you put your right foot in. So here we go. You put your right foot in, you put your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself about. That's what it's all about. You put in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much. Mom is here with us for sure. She would love to be dancing the hokey pokey with us. And she would wish you love, hope, and fun going forward. So thank you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Wilkin, Eloise's son-in-law. I was married to her daughter, Marcia, who passed away last August. I first met Eloise in 2010, right next door here in Altoona. And I was really nervous about meeting her, so I asked Marcia to tell me a little bit about her. And Marcia told me that her mom used to be rich until she married her dad. And I said, "Oh, really?" And she said, "Yes, her maiden name was Rich." Marcia was really proud of her mom. She went on to tell me stories about how strong and talented she was and how her mom stood up for her when Marcia was fighting the school policy that girls couldn't wear pants to school. And Eloise's beloved husband, as you know, suffered a stroke, left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak. And Eloise met the challenge head on, took care of his every need. She also took every available step to facilitate his recovery. She took him to Pilates instructor, thumper. She made sure that she took him to church whenever possible because Calvin loved to sing in the choir. And she had a music instructor from UW come to their home and worked with him on harmonica. She was in her mid-80s at the time, yet she could toss Calvin's wheelchair in the trunk of the car and help him into the car, and away they went to, if nothing else, out to lunch. And of course, as I became part of the family, I was expected to play a favorite card game called Hand and Foot. And I could never figure out how Team Calvin and Eloise always defeated Team Marcia and Bill. Eloise made every effort to get to know me and care about me. She took an interest in my life and wanted to know all about me. Eloise, I appreciate you and sincerely thank you for being you. Thank you for accepting me into your family. Marcia and I were so grateful for you and your love. I felt like a very lucky son-in-law. A mother's love is always with her children. Losing a mother is one of the deepest sorrows a heart can know. But her goodness, her caring, and her wisdom live on like a legacy of love that will always be with you. May that love surround you now and bring you peace. Everyone here is lucky to have known Eloise. I know that Eloise is with us today and smiling at the beautiful memories that we have shared.
Now I invite those that would like to come forward and share a brief memory and light a candle and say your name and share your memory if you like.
Hello, I am speaking on behalf of my older sister, Chris, who lives in Canada, so she was not able to make it today, but she wrote something very special about our Grandma Eloise. She said, "Grandma Eloise had a special way of always recognizing and voicing something she liked about me. She complimented me on my cooking, how I could handle a crowd, or any little thing she noticed. She would tell me in such a sweet, encouraging way that just made me feel seen, known, and loved. She had so many amazing talents. One thing I admired most was her love and acceptance of people. Through traveling, volunteering, and advocating, I always admired that passion and energy. She and Grandpa Cal would give family members a small, thoughtful gift at Christmas and always made a donation from the family to buy goats or chickens for people who really needed a little bit of help. Those are my favorite presents and made the biggest impact on me. Helping others is a gift. I will miss her sweet smile, her cheeky laugh, and the love that she shared.
Hi, my name is Jada. I'm the daughter of Danielle. As she said, we live in Indiana, so I didn't really get to see my grandma Eloise too much. But when I did, she was always there to show me love, and she never let me feel left out. Not too long ago, we went and saw her to celebrate her birthday. That was when she was living in one of those retirement homes. It was really nice to see her, and we made a lot of fun. As said, Grandma Eloise liked fun a lot. She had these very pink glasses that we played around with, and we took a few pictures. That's just something that I hold to my heart because it was one of the last times that I saw my grandma. Thank you.
So I'm Kevin, another son-in-law, married to Elisa Joe. And when I think about Eloise, I think of three words come to mind: humor, and strength, and dignity. And the humor, you've heard a lot about it. I saw it most on family outings, canoe trips on the river nearby, and every holiday season, Cal and Eloise would get a place up on the North Shore, and we spend a few days up there and just have a great time. And strength, Bill summed it up very well. It was incredibly impressive how hard she worked after Cal had his stroke. They were bound and determined to keep him out of assisted living, and for the most part, that's what happened. And it was through her just constant determination and strength that was able to happen. And then dignity, I think it was pervasive throughout. We've heard a lot about it, but for me, the last time I saw her, just a few days before she passed, I saw a woman with just great dignity.
Hello, my name is Cameron Joya. I like to say Grandma Louise was so generous and so nice. She felt like she was one of my family members, and I still love her, and I will always remember her in my heart. Even when she passed away, she would be in my heart still.
Grandma had a sense of humor. Got to spend a lot of time with her over the last couple of years, which I'm very grateful for. I've told this to our immediate family, but I thought I would share this with you. I took a class in college, which made me a lot more open and familiar with death, and it got me just thinking about it and trying to normalize it, and Grandma was very open to obscure questions and conversations. So one of the last few times that I went to go see her, she had been having dreams about Grandpa, and she was 90, and I had spent some time with her, and we had kind of, run the gamut on life updates, and so I asked her if she was afraid of dying. Gave her preface on why I was asking, but she looked at me and she smiled and she said, "No one's ever asked me that before." Fair. And she said no. This was a few years ago too, before anything was happening with her health-wise, and she said no. And I said, why? And she said, "I don't know what happens next. I don't know where I'm gonna be, but wherever I am, I know I'm gonna be with Grandpa again. So I hope that provides you comfort, because it provides me a lot that she, years ago, was not afraid. So I just know that wherever she is, she's in really great company."
When Eloise's daughter, Elisa Jo, asked us to sing this song, "Let Me Call You Sweetheart," she told us that her dad used to sing it to her mom often. After he had his stroke and could no longer find his words, Cal still hummed the song to Eloise every morning when they woke up. It is a touching statement of their love. Tim and I will sing the first verse, and then we ask you, all of you, to join as we go through it again, humming the song. Once more, in memory and honor of both Eloise and Calvin.
Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so true. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you.
Now hum along.
Some of this will be repetitious coming last. A lot of what I had prepared has been said, but I think that's okay. I first met Eloise about 1977, I think, at a meeting of this congregation before we were in this sanctuary. Since then, our lives have touched many times, including my officiating at one of her children's wedding and at her husband's memorial service. Also, we worked together on various justice projects, and we traveled together with our families to Belize one Christmas. And my wife and I also sat with Calvin after his stroke so that Eloise could get a break. And finally, we visited them in Green Valley. The Elands were founding members of the Chippewa Valley Unitarian Fellowship in 1950, which was, I'm told, a very progressive, if not socialist, group that frequently engaged in protests. For example, one was against a proposed Tyrone nuclear plant. This congregation evolved from that fellowship. And here, of course, Calvin and Eloise were both very active on our Social Justice Committee and in church politics. They were both very outspoken in their opinions, and they were a force in the life of this congregation. At the core of Eloise's life, as many have said, was her husband, Calvin, whom she loved dearly. They were together for 68 years, and after he suffered a major stroke in 2011, Eloise dedicated herself to giving him as full and rich a life as he could manage. She had people over, she got him playing bridge again, Sudokus, she procured him devices to help him communicate and to have music, and she arranged for him to be in the Green Valley UU choir, even when he had no language. And in every way that she could, she saw to it that he was involved and happy, and he was happy. In all that she did, we saw her love for him. Her capacity for devotion was also evident, as has been demonstrated in her care for her family. She loved them all. One time we had a conversation about parenting, which taught me a lot. She said, I just model the behavior that I hope that they'll emulate. And you've all said the same thing. And she also, when they had problems, she worried and she tried to come up with solutions to help them. Eloise also expressed her caring heart professionally, first as a registered nurse and finally as a marriage and family counselor. She also expressed it in her activism. She was an ardent feminist. She was one of the founders of the Eau Claire Women's Center, which began Bolton Refuge House here for abused women. When I was on the board of the center in the late 70s, a controversy concerning the role of lesbians in the center and in the Bolton Refuge House threatened and actually eventually ended the Women's Center. Eloise argued passionately for the inclusion of lesbians. And she and Calvin were early and leading members of PFLAG, Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. She also helped found a group called FIFI, which was from the book Fat is a Feminist Issue. After they moved to Arizona, they were deep into the work of the Samaritans, as you've heard. In their retirement here, they were out in the desert providing food, water, and medical assistance to migrants, hoping to reduce the number who were dying there. Eloise was also ardently anti-racist. Although Calvin has been honored for beginning Juneteenth, Eloise was right there with him in the preparations and in providing food. All of it, she brought all of it at the beginning. Indeed, she was right there with Calvin in most of his activism. Additionally, she was early into recycling and shared her knowledge with all of us that would listen to her. And finally, she was early to eliminate or limit meat from their diet and to eat organic. Eloise was loving, but she was also fierce with a backbone of steel. She knew what she believed and felt, and she seldom swayed off course. We saw this steel in the way she kept Calvin going after his stroke. I saw it in her defense of lesbians in the Women's Center And one Sunday morning during a congregational dialogue after a sermon I had given on forgiveness, she just wouldn't let it go. She said, "Okay, finally," she said, "it's okay to forgive, but don't forget." So that we have to protect ourselves from repeated abuse. So finally, her family saw this steel after Calvin's death and her struggle to be where she wanted to be. She was a sweet but tough lady. She also knew how to have fun, as many have said. She and Calvin were very good dancers. They even tried to teach several of us to dance here in the church basement. She also taught many of us yoga, not only in the back, but right here on the altar, and in her home too. And in their 70s, they loved biking, and a lot of times they biked to church, and it was 6 to 7 miles, here and then 6 to 7 miles back. Before she lost her sight, she was a great reader. And all of her life, she loved being informed and discussing current events and good books. She was a remarkable woman. May her light continue to shine in our hearts and minds. Now it's time to extinguish our chalice. Please join me in saying the words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We close our service with this benediction. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the gentle night to you. Moon and stars pour their healing light on you. Deep peace of the infinite to you. No one person can sum up the life of another. Life is too precious to be passed over with mere words. Rather, it must remain as it is remembered by those who loved and watched and shared. For such memories are alive, unbound by events of death and birth, and as living memories, we possess the greatest gift one person can give another. It is to each of you that we give the living memories of Eloise Eland. Committed to your hearts, may her memory be a blessing, and may it be an enduring remembrance of this precious life. We hope those in person will join us downstairs for a reception, and those online, thank you for attending. And the family also asked me to share that memorials for Eloise would be welcome to Beacon House and also the Green Valley Samaritans.